The pen my mother slid across the table was the same gold one she used to sign our Christmas cards. It stopped against my plate like a small accusation. Across the table sat 3 lawyers I'd never met, papers fanned under the warm yellow light she always kept too low. My father wouldn't look at me. My sister Morgan smiled the way she smiled at price tags. My mother folded her hands and said the thing she'd practiced all week. "Sign this, or you'll regret it." I looked at that pen for a long moment. I didn't reach for it. I said the thing I'd been saving all night, and within a minute the room emptied like someone had pulled a drain. To understand how I got there, you have to go back to the morning I finally told my family no. I'm Faye. I run a small bookkeeping firm in Harlow, Ohio, 2 rooms above a hardware store. Sinclair Books, built client by client over 10 years. Numbers don't flinch or flatter you. Mornings start the same. Coffee with my husband Daniel, radio low. Daniel is steady in a way my family never trusted because steady doesn't dazzle. I learned quiet by surviving the loud. So when my mother's name lit my phone that Tuesday, my stomach knew before my head did. I let it ring twice, a small private mutiny, then answered, because family means you pick up no matter what. "Faye, honey, I have the most wonderful news," she said, bright and expensive. Morgan was engaged to Ethan Aldridge, of the family that owned half the nice things in our county and had their name on a hospital wing. "We're going to do this right, a real wedding this family can be proud of." I noticed the word, we, a coat that only ever fit one person. How right. 50,000, give or take. The bride's family hosts, Faye. That's how it's done. 50,000 was more than my parents had cleared in any year I remembered. "You've always been our responsible one," she said. Responsible. The leash it had always been. Her voice cooled 1 exact degree. Family doesn't keep score. The sentence she'd reached for since I was 16, always meaning pay. I told her I needed to think. She heard yes because she always heard yes, and hung up planning flowers. I was 16 the first time I paid a bill that wasn't mine. My father's contracting business was wobbling. The electric company sent a second notice, and my mother cried while 8-year-old Morgan watched cartoons next door. I had $211 saved for a class trip. I gave it to her, and the relief on her face taught me something permanent. Being needed felt almost exactly like being loved. By 18, the business was gone for good. Bankruptcy, whispered only at church. I became, without anyone saying it, the family's emergency fund. Car repairs, Morgan's braces, her apartment deposit, the leased car she totaled at 22. The day you finally hesitate, you stop being a daughter and become a problem. There was one thing they didn't know about me. 14 months earlier, I'd married Daniel Hartley at the county courthouse. 2 strangers as witnesses, diner pie after. I hid the marriage out of arithmetic, not shame. Years back, I'd brought home a kind boyfriend, a science teacher. Within an hour, my mother had priced him like a used car. He never called again. So when Daniel, an attorney, quiet and exact, came along, I decided I wouldn't hand my family one more person to price. They'd dismissed him as some paralegal phase, and I let them believe it. "When you're ready," he'd said once, "I'll be standing right there." That night he asked what I wanted to do. "Part of me wants to just write the check. Or," he said, "you could find out what the money is actually for." I'm a bookkeeper. I always keep the receipts. I just hadn't thought to read my own family's. 3 days later, my mother summoned me for a planning coffee. Morgan had glossy printouts spread across the table, and my mother's legal pad showed a bottom line circled twice. $52,400. "That's higher than 50, I said. "Buffers," she said, pleased with herself. "Since you handle money for a living, you could just manage the whole thing." "You don't mind, right?" Morgan said. My father, by the window, said nothing. The old reflex rose. I held it behind my teeth. "Let me look at the numbers." My mother beamed like I'd already signed. At home, Daniel set down his pen. "Faye, you've thought about it for 18 years. What you haven't done is decide. If I say no, they'll make it the worst thing I've ever done. Probably. And if I say yes, it never ends. He put his hand over mine. Then you already know what you have to do. I called Saturday morning. Mom, I can't fund the wedding. I can help with something specific, but not $50,000. The line went dead quiet. Then Morgan, teeth in her voice. You're humiliating me in front of Ethan's family. It's just money, Faye. Yes, that's literally my job. She hung up. My mother didn't call back, which was worse. Within a day, Aunt Carol called worried. A cousin texted about blood and bank accounts. Someone from church left a gentle, coached voicemail about family unity. People don't move that fast from hurt feelings. They move that fast on a deadline. I got curious instead of upset. Why $50,000? And why now, with no wedding date set? Daniel read my notes over my shoulder. You're asking like an accountant now. Is that bad? It's the first smart thing this family's made you do in years. I'd done my parents' taxes for years. 18 months back, I'd noticed a new line on the house. A refinance my mother waved off as, your father's idea, lower rate. I looked with cold eyes. It hadn't lowered anything. It had pulled cash out, and I'd never seen that money go anywhere. I built a spreadsheet. A gap of tens of thousands opened with no explanation. Whatever swallowed that money was still hungry, and now they needed $50,000 more before a wedding with no date. My father called me first, which never happened. Tax season's coming. Send your social security number and that old W-9. There was no family filing. I was his accountant. Send me whatever they need. I'll handle my portion directly. He let it go too easily. I froze all 3 credit reports the second I hung up. There's only one reason a man asks his daughter for her social security number and an old signed tax form. He wants to put her name on something. I laid it all out for Daniel, the second mortgage, the missing money, the strange request, my frozen credit. As a lawyer, not your husband, the pressure and urgency is called undue influence. The SSN request worries me more. It could make it look like you agreed to something. Document everything. Don't sign a thing. My phone buzzed. Is this Faye Sinclair? We're calling from Harlow Savings to verify a joint loan application listing you as co-borrower. The kitchen went silent. I never applied for anything. Submitted last week, pending signature. I kept the woman, Brenda, talking. You're listed as co-borrower and guarantor. Guarantor. The word my body had been bracing for. I'd like this frozen. It's pending the co-borrower's signature. You'd need to come in. When could it close? Once signed, within 2 weeks. They put my name on a loan, I told Daniel. Almost approved. Then we document that you never consented. This isn't a family argument anymore. It's fraud. I needed to see the application myself. I knew where my father kept things he didn't want found. The gray filing cabinet that survived the bankruptcy. I made myself useful, called my mother, said I'd been thinking it over. I knew you'd come around, she said. Come Thursday. My father had his standing clinic appointment Thursday, gone all afternoon. Morgan was trying on a veil in the living room, glowing. It's beautiful, I said, and meant it. I'll grab the tax files from your office, I called, moving down the hall. Good girl, my mother sang back, not suspicious. My hands were steady. Bookkeeper's hands only shake after. The cabinet key was behind the dried-out highlighters, same as always. In the bottom drawer, a crisp new manila folder. Inside, a loan application from Harlow Savings, my father as primary borrower. On the guarantor line, my name, my old address, my social security number, in his blocky handwriting. The signature line was blank. They planned to get it Thursday. Underneath, a bank letter requesting the signature to finalize a loan of $90,000. Not 50, 90. The wedding was the cover. I photographed every page, replaced the folder, took the real tax files, and told my mother I'd see her Thursday. I held it together until the driveway, then let my hands shake. I drove to my office. The photos told two truths. My parents needed $90,000 badly enough to commit fraud against their own child, and the wedding was the delivery system. But the second mortgage didn't explain all of it. What if the marriage itself was part of the math? The Aldridges had generational money. My mother spoke of them the way a drowning person speaks about a boat. Daniel and I worked until 2 a.m., building a file, my photographs, a sworn timeline, the bank call, my frozen credit, plus my old ledgers. 16 years of every dollar I'd given my family, never repaid. This is the most important document you have. It shows a pattern. When they say family doesn't keep score, they mean you're not allowed to. What do we do with it? Nothing yet. We wait. The worst thing we can do is warn them. It took another week to find the rest, at a bridal luncheon. 2 glasses of wine in, Morgan got talkative. Ethan's dad is going to invest in Daddy's new business after the wedding. Daddy showed him the books. She didn't understand what she was saying. My father had a hole he couldn't explain, and a plan to fill it 2 ways. A $90,000 loan guaranteed by my credit, and an investment from Ethan's father secured by a wedding and books that made my father look solvent. The wedding was a stage set to make the Aldridges believe the Sinclairs were worth investing in. Morgan, glowing, was the bait. Daniel laid out where I stood. You never signed that loan. It's dead the moment we say so. Anything signed under this coercion can be challenged as undue influence. They had no idea their loan was already a corpse. So what do I do? Nothing dramatic. Let them set their trap. When they spring it, you stop being cornered. How? By bringing the truth into the room, and by bringing me. The invitation came Sunday, wrapped in linen, a real family dinner, and some wedding paperwork you're so good with. Friday, 7 o'clock, pot roast. The bank had said 2 weeks. Friday sat at the edge of it. We prepared like soldiers. Daniel made copies of everything, the application, the bank letter, my timeline, the bound ledgers, and drafted a letter stating I'd never authorized any loan. We lead with calm. 2 days before, Morgan came to my office, shaking. Mom says you're fixing everything Friday. Nobody's paying for anything. Has anyone shown you the real budget? Mom handles that with you. I'm not paying for the wedding. I told them weeks ago. Her face went white. Then who is? Sit with me Friday, I said. And remember I tried to ask you this first. Ethan called the next morning, asked for coffee. My father's excited about investing in your dad's business. Am I crazy for wanting to see the books first? You're not crazy. You're the only one asking the right question. Don't let your father send money until after Friday. That sounds like a warning. It's a kindness. The night before, I sat in the dark with Daniel. I kept you a secret. I was ashamed of them. I know, and tomorrow you stop. Friday came soft and golden. We parked down the block. I'd go in alone, as expected. Daniel would wait for one text. I saw 3 unfamiliar sedans through the window. My mother had said just family. I texted, 3 cars. I see them. Say the word. My mother opened the door, radiant in the dress she wore to weddings and funerals both. Inside, the dining room glowed low and yellow, pot roast steaming, and around the table sat 3 men I'd never seen, briefcases open. Don't mind them, she said lightly. Friends of the family, here to make everything official. They sat me in the good chair. Morgan was pale, twisting her ring. Ethan gave me the smallest nod. The lawyers were polished and expensive, retained to draft what they'd been told was a friendly arrangement everyone had already blessed. We performed a family for 20 minutes, my father telling the lawyers how generous I'd always been. Finally, my mother set down her fork. Faye, we have a real chance now to set everything right. For Morgan, for all of us. A lawyer slid a thick document down the table until it stopped against my plate. A family partnership agreement. Pools our resources, nothing complicated. I didn't touch it. It's just money, Faye. Morgan said, voice breaking now. I made them wait while I read it. The old Faye signed out of love and panic. The new one was a bookkeeper. Buried on page 9, I would be personally liable for shared family obligations, broad enough to cover the $90,000 loan. Named guarantor. My business pledged as collateral. Bound to ongoing support of family ventures, a fancy way of saying I'd be their bank forever. They'd come to make me their property. We need this signed tonight, my mother said, warmth gone. The bank needs it by Monday. She slid the gold pen across until it touched my hand. Sign this, Faye, or you'll regret it. If you turn your back now, you won't have a family to come back to. The threat under the love, said out loud in front of 3 lawyers and the man my sister was about to marry. Under the table, I typed one word to Daniel. Now. Before I sign anything, there's someone I'd like you all to meet. The doorbell rang. I answered it myself. Daniel stood there in the suit that looked expensive, holding a slim folder. Everyone, this is Daniel Hartley, my husband. The word landed like a stone in still water. We married 14 months ago. I kept it private. You'll understand why. Daniel set down a single sheet. I'm Faye's attorney as well as her husband. My client has never authorized any loan on behalf of this family. A signature obtained tonight, 3 attorneys, a financial threat, sign or you'll regret it, is exactly what a court throws out for undue influence. One lawyer cleared his throat. This is simply a family agreement. It's a contract pledging her business as collateral for a $90,000 loan. Page 9. You brought a lawyer into your own family's home? My mother said shrilly. No, Mom. You brought 3. I brought 1. And I married him. I opened my own folder. Dad, 3 weeks ago you asked for my SSN and W-9 for a family tax filing that doesn't exist. I laid down the loan application. $90,000. You're the primary borrower, and here on the guarantor line is my name, my SSN, in your handwriting. The only thing missing is my signature. His face went gray. That isn't borrowing. It's fraud. I froze my credit the day after your call. This loan is dead. I'm not going to report you, I said, watching relief curdle into shame. Because Morgan and Mom would be caught in it. But you will never touch my name, my credit, or my money again. My mother rose, mask fully off. How dare you, after everything I sacrificed? Let's talk about the wedding. It was never about the wedding. You needed the Aldridges to believe this family was worth investing in, so Ethan's father would fund a business that doesn't exist. Ethan went rigid. The financials my dad's been shown. I'd have an accountant look at those very carefully, I told him. You ungrateful girl, my mother said. You taught me one sentence my whole life, I said quietly. Family doesn't keep score. You were right. That's why I kept 16 years of it. Somebody had to keep an honest record. I held up the ledgers. For the first time, my mother had nothing to say. She exploded instead, then threw a stack of papers at me. We have proof you agreed, your own words. It was my own text messages. Years of them. Of course I'll help. Don't worry about paying me back. They'd archived my own kindness as evidence I'd voluntarily taken on the debt. That was the deepest cut. That they'd studied my goodness like a vulnerability and built a case out of it. You kept my kindness as evidence, I said. You saw the one part of me that loved you without conditions, and saw a loophole. That's proof of exactly who I'm walking away from. Ethan stood. You're going to use my family's money to fill a hole, and you used Morgan to do it. To her. Did you know? No, Ethan, I swear. I believe you. To me. Thank you for the warning. He paused at Morgan's chair. I do love you, but I can't start a marriage in the middle of this. You know where to find me. He left with his dignity and his family's money intact. Morgan came apart slowly. You used me, she told our parents. All of it, the dress, the venue, the Aldridges. I was just the bait. To me, mascara ruined. You tried to ask me. I called you jealous in my head. I know. It's just money, Faye, she whispered, the old catechism, now a real question. I thought if I kept paying, you'd all keep loving me, I said. I was wrong about the math too, just in a different direction. She wasn't the architect. A girl raised on the same script handed a different role. When you're ready to look at things honestly, call me. Not for money, but I'll answer. 2 rings. The lead attorney closed his folder. If any part of what I've heard tonight is accurate, this firm cannot be a party to it. We're withdrawing. The others packed up. My father sat hollow. My mother stood rigid, searching for a lever that had always worked and finding it dead in her hand. I gathered my folder and left their agreement on the table. At the door, my mother tried once more, small and trembling. Faye, if you walk out that door, you won't have a family. I turned back, the good chair, the low light, the gold pen still untouched. Mom, I said, and I wasn't angry, which frightened her most. I haven't had a family in a long time. I've had a balance due. I opened the door. The evening air came in cool and clean, and I walked out with my husband beside me and 16 years of receipts in my arms. The fallout was quieter than expected. Daniel sent the letter to Harlow Savings Monday. The loan died, my name cleared for good. My father, facing a paper trail and a lawyer son-in-law, didn't fight it. The wedding didn't happen. Ethan's father withdrew from the imaginary business, and the whole scheme collapsed. The relatives who'd called me selfish went quiet when the real story trickled out. A few apologized. I accepted without warmth. Morgan and I aren't close, but she called 2 months later just to say she'd moved out, gotten a job, started seeing a counselor. I'm trying to learn the difference between being needed and being loved, she said. That was my whole life in one sentence. We talk sometimes now. Not what it was. Better, because it's honest. My parents and I don't speak. My mother sent one letter, opening with an apology and closing by asking if I'd reconsider helping with the second mortgage. I read it once. I didn't reply. Daniel and I had a real dinner that Friday, at the diner with the pie. I told the waitress it was our anniversary and didn't lower my voice when I said his name. For the first time, the columns added up, not because I'd paid everyone off, but because I'd stopped letting people draw on an account I never agreed to open. The phone still rings. I still let it ring twice, out of habit. But now when I pick up, it's because I want to. Here's what I know now. Kindness was never the problem. The problem was a family that read my kindness as a balance they were entitled to draw on forever. And the day I closed the account, I didn't lose a family. I finally found out I'd been carrying one that was never really mine to carry. So that's how one quiet sentence emptied a room. The gold pen, the 3 lawyers, the $90,000 with my name forged across the future. If your love has ever come with an invoice attached, set the boundary before the bill arrives. Tell me in the comments where you finally said no and meant it. Some of you needed to hear this today. Subscribe, stay close, and I'll see you in the next story.